Hi, Internet. How are you doing today? From me to you, truly, 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 ask yourself, how are you doing today? I want to give you that space and I want to give you that validation while you ask yourself, how are you doing? I know I said this, but I just really hope that you take you time when you watch this content that I produce, and anytime you're watching me, I hope that you know that you're taking time for yourself, and that is what I want you to get out of it. I started a video. I got a phone call in the middle of it, and I was talking about how I feel like I have been in this crossroads in my life about my relationships and my values in friendships and my values in my maybe romantic relationships. And I was starting off by saying that, I'm a really maternal person. And I think the things that I've gone through in life have also curated that part of myself. And I think I just jump into this caretaking role in a lot of my relationships. And what I think even my algorithms on my social medias have even been picking up sort of this like investigation into myself and my relationships. And something that came up was like, what are your values? Like, what drains you in a relationship? Like, what makes you feel good? And I think it was really hard for me to sit there and sort of ask myself that, because I realized I didn't really know. I didn't really know what I appreciated. I didn't really know like what I liked. And I was like, whoa, like what does drain me? Like I really was taken back that I was so taken back by those questions. And I realized, that I think this maternal part of myself, even though I'm good at it, even though it's what I think I unconsciously even jump into sometimes in my relationships, drains me. Because I'm also very self-aware as a person, as an individual, through my education and also, again, my life experiences. And sometimes that can be a little bit of a trauma response. I will totally admit that, but I think I realized that is really draining. Kind of really taking care of my friends in a friendly environment. I don't want to say like it's draining taking care of myself. Like that's also fucking true. Especially if you are learning how to take care of yourself and you weren't really given those tools growing up. But I think it's just to jump into that space of managing everybody is difficult. And I think even that is reflected in my space when I have folks over, like just not really respecting my space, kind of like leaving their trash around for me to pick up when they leave. And that's super small. It's like imbecile small, right? Like part of me is like, should I even complain about that? But, when it's like a pattern, it's like, what can I take away from this? And I think, of course, I need to put up better boundaries in my spaces. But again, like that part of me is draining, because I think it sets me up for little situations like that where I kind of have to pick up the pieces. This is very minor, but it of course leads to very other bigger parts. Even too, like I've heard these things from honestly like a couple of my friends. I don't want to say a handful, maybe like 2 or 3 of my friends have really mentioned to me like, hey, I feel like when we hang out, I feel like when we are together, we really like talk about the hardships we're going through, which I think all of your friends, you gossip, you talk about what's going on in your life, you talk about, parts of your life that are really hard. But I really realized a couple of friendships of mine have really been built around sort of like just hardship spaces and really bonding over the hardships we go through. And I think me taking time for myself in this era and reflecting on that, I've realized, oh, like, I don't want that, you know? And a relationship is a two-way street. I don't want to say I think both parts are equal in bringing that energy, you know? And I think also, I know I'm meant to be a healer in this lifetime. I'm definitely an empath. I'm very aware of emotions and how people feel a majority of the time. But I have just realized that, you know, and I think, of course, being a healer and being somebody who is a problem solver, I'm going to be attuned to maybe those more negative and just deconstructing sort of conversations about life. But it's made me realize, like, wow, like, I'm good at that, but it drains me. And, you know, sometimes it doesn't make me feel good. And so I guess this video is just about those boundaries. Like, how can we, as individuals, put up boundaries for ourselves, right? Like, put up, how do we say no? And I think femininely, as a woman, in my experience in this life, and my tendencies to overcome my people pleasing, like, that's hard. You know, it's hard to say like, oh, no. And, you know, I will say I do have some friends that definitely, like, can meet me where I'm at. You know, they know when I'm over it. And shout out to y'all. But also, you know, that's a lot to put on somebody, right? That sort of responsibility. And again, relationships are a give and take. But at the end of the day, like, I can't expect my friends to know how I feel if I don't tell them, you know? So, you know, I think, you know, also, again, leading to my next point, it's like, you know, the boundary is telling them how you feel. The boundary is telling them, hey, I don't feel supported enough right now. Hey, I don't feel like the give and take is equal. Like, how can we meet each other where we're at, you know? Or how can we, if that's not possible, how can we meet each other where our needs are met, you know? Because sometimes, you know, somebody can't meet you where they're at because of, you know, certain other parts in our life. I was actually just saw that today, you know, like, you can't expect people to meet you where you're at because not everybody's going to be at where you're at. But how can you take care of one another? How can you support one another through that? You know, like, understanding ways the other person receives affection, understanding the way the other ways people feel celebrated. You know, how can you do little things for somebody to know that they feel appreciated? Maybe that's like helping them just like organize their room, you know? Like, one of my best friends in high school, like, would always reorganize her room. And so I feel like for me, like, just, you know, hanging out and helping me reorganize, like, you know, that doesn't cost money. That's just your time. So I think too, it's like really, you know, sitting with yourself and asking yourself that. And sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it's too much to, you know, have a friend at a different space than you. And, like, that's okay, you know, like, time apart doesn't have to be something that is hard or, you know, even like scrutinized. Like, that time apart can just be like, I need space. Like, it's not personal. And so, you know, of course, like, when you've had multiple conversations and multiple ruts with a friend and you still have articulated to them about your needs and have talked to them about that and they're still not meeting you where they're at, they're not respecting your time, they're not respecting your space, then, better late than never. I am definitely in my, I feel like in a really transitional time in my life, like I've said. And so, it's kind of been hard to let go of some of those relationships that I feel like don't serve me, and that I was sort of really riding certain waves of internal hardships, and that I really had to face like, oh wow, like this relationship really reflects that to me. And so that's just, I think that's like the growth of relationships, and the growth of choosing yourself and standing true to you. And, I think a lot of that for me personally has been rooted in spirituality and like going within. I think there are also a lot of different ways that somebody can come to that conclusion for themselves. And so, somebody is supposed to add to your life, like not take away from it. And I think that's also something that's really important that people, I think too, in our culture and in our entertainment, love is hard. Like, like the work should be painful. Like, no. That is just, I think, what makes us not listen to our body because, if we're bred to see love as painful, and that like, even too in our culture today with just technology and the simplicities and the instantaneousness of the world, it's, and it, in so many layers, and even in consumption, relationships are very transactional. And I think that's really harmful in a lot of different ways for men and women and other folks that identify the way they identify, and a lot of different, it's very objectifying, and I don't think we really realize that. Even the internet, like above dating apps, of course, is objectifying, but even internets and like the way that we interact online, like it's transactional. Like they say, like the way that social media performs emulates the way your brain functions. The dopamine that you get from likes and whatnot, that external validation, I think it's really harmful, and it's sad that there really isn't regulation. The internet, technology, social media are some of the, biggest industries that have ever been created and are the least regulated and monetized. I mean, not they're very heavily monetized. I'm not just talking about, very heavily unregulated. And it's just this constant theme that money is worth more than people's lives. Sorry, I'm getting off topic a little bit. That's another video for another day. But, I think that at the end of the day, like, saying no is choosing you. And I think also, too, I just want to say, like, don't say no as a power move. Like, if you're, like, say no when it's, like, true to you. Like, I feel like, too, sometimes folks will say no to try to create some sort of hierarchy, when at the end of the day, like, it just shouldn't be that hard, And if you feel yourself overperforming, then I think that maybe it's just not the right fit for you. And those are really hard pills to swallow. These are really hard choices, y'all. Like, I think, too, we all have our own journey. Like Mel Robbins in her podcast was saying, like, your advice and your opinion, it reflects as judgment, and you can't force somebody to be where you're at. And I think that's so true, like, we all come from a different walk of life. We all grew up in a very different way. And I just really iterate that in a lot of my videos, because I think in our culture today, we're so like zoomed in because we have this like really tunneled perspective, and I think we just have to like remove ourselves and be like, wow, like me and my neighbor, very different life experiences. I cannot compare myself to her. Vice versa. Vice versa. You know? And so sorry, y'all. I just totally breathed into the microphone. My dog is also literally about to bark because I'm not petting him. Sorry. But I think it's just important to really practice choosing ourselves, because the minute that you choose you, everything that is for you will come. I promise you. So I'm going to wrap it up here because I know this is another longer bit of a video. And I hope this resonates with somebody. I hope this really sits with someone and pushes their curiosity, and just, we're all mustering through our relationships. Relationships are hard. Friendships are hard. So all the power to you, babe. Truly, truly, truly. Until next time.